Hello, my name is Yeji, otherwise known as ANdmadeco, here on YouTube and on Instagram. Today, I want to talk all about what I'm currently wearing, my finished object, works in progress, as well as future plans. But the future plans might actually come first. And so we'll just jump right into it. So first, before all of that, I want to thank you for your kind comments and compliments on last week's video of my Make 9 and for all of your suggestions of size-inclusive Asian designers. I've received so many, and I'm so happy that I'm discovering designers who are new to me that I can knit from in the future. Thank you especially to Kristen Tam 502 for your very comprehensive list of Asian designers who you bought patterns from and knit from before. They helped me a lot in my search. And also, I created a small Ravelry bundle for anybody who's interested in looking at some of these designs from some of these designers. I just went ahead and chose one or two size inclusive or mostly size inclusive designs that I really like from the designers who I personally, these are patterns that I would personally hope to get to in the future. Speaking of Asian designers, I know that Amy Sher has just come out with her Mariner sweater pattern, and I wanted to highlight that sweater as well. It has really pretty button details on the top of the shoulders, which you could choose to leave out or put in depending on what your preferences are, and also has really nice stripes, which of course you could omit. So if that is something you're interested in, then I will also leave a link for the pattern in the description below. And this is also a jump, but I wanted to briefly mention that the Harbor mitts that I've tested, they finally have a name by Alicia Plummer. The fingerless pink mitts that I've tested for her have finally been released, and I think there's a coupon for 25% off with the code HARBOR for a limited time. So if that is something you're interested in, then I will also leave a link for the pattern in the description. And now circling back to the comments of my last week's video, thank you so much. And there is another comment by Mariola who suggested the drawing sweater by Tomomi Yoshimoto, which is what I'm currently wearing. So now we're going into what I'm wearing. And I wanted to wear this in today's video because I've never shown it off before in a video. And so there was no way that you would know that I have already knit the sweater. This is something that I completed at the tail end of 2022 on December 31st. So I was really gunning to finish it by the end of 2022. The drawing sweater is originally designed to be in a sport weight yarn, and the designer suggests US 4 and 6 needles, which is 4mm as well as 3.5mm needles. But I went up a needle size to a US 7 because I used a DK weight yarn or a fingering weight yarn held double to make a DK weight yarn. So this pattern is not the most size inclusive. It only comes in 3 sizes, M, LL, and 3XL. And 3XL goes up to around a 51.75 inch bust. So I knit a size medium, and my garment is slightly larger than what the designer suggests because I did go up a needle size because my fabric just draped better with that higher needle size. If I was to follow the pattern exactly and get the gauge in the pattern, it would have come out to around 105 centimeter bust, but I did get, I think, around 110 to 115 centimeter bust. I'll stand up and show you what it looks like on me now. The designer Tomomi Yoshimoto used Durara Natura Ulysse, which is a sport weight yarn, and I decided to use Holst Garn Super Soft, and I held 2 light fingering weights double to create a light DK, a heavy sport weight type of fabric. And because of this, I went up a needle size, as I mentioned, and I'm really happy I did so because this is a very warm garment. And so I'm happy that it has a little bit more drape. So for all of the color work as well as the body, I knit it in a US 7, a 4.5mm needle. And for the ribbing, I went down 2 to 3 needle sizes and I used a US 5 or a 4 for the ribbing. I'm not sure if you can tell, but the navy and the soft blue of my wrist are slightly different. The navy is navy heather in Holst Garn Super Soft, and the soft blue is vintage heather. The white is bleached white. So I thought that it would look really good together, and this is the yarn that I ordered. There's a lot of things that people say about Holst Garn Super Soft. One thing for sure that everybody agrees on is that it's not super soft. I'm wearing it next to skin and I feel fine even in my warmer room, but I think it's because I've washed it a couple times and the fabric has the yarn has really bloomed to fill in the stitches. One thing I noticed when I was looking at the mirror is that you can see some of the places where I caught my floats, but when I'm when I'm just going out around about my day or when I'm taking pictures, that's not something that I really notice. I think I was being a little bit more critical and looking at it, and because the places where I caught my floats are dark yarn against a white flower, a white piece of background, it's a little bit more obvious when you're really looking for it. All of the yardages are on my Ravelry if you are interested, but this did not take nearly as much yarn as I thought it would. I used just under 4 skeins of the navy heather, and then around 3 of the white, bleach white, and then around 1 of the vintage heather. And in total, it wasn't as much yarn as I thought, but of course, my arms are slightly cropped and the body is as well. I decided to crop my arm length because the yoke is very deep, so I didn't want the arms to be too long. And I find that with a shorter sleeve length, it kind of balanced out the deep yoke a little bit better, and it doesn't really cause a problem when I raise my arms. I think it doesn't lift up so super high where you can see my bra, but it is still quite deep. I'll stand up just to show you again. So this sweater is probably not the best sweater to make if you are new to color work, but if you are an adventurous beginner, then I would say that you can go ahead. It's just that you have to know how to do back and forth color work, even in the pro rows, and you also have to keep in mind that there are some short rows and some places where you have to do some yarn management where you have to carry some colors over. It's, I think, a lot more confusing when you're talking about it, but as you're going through the steps line by line, you kind of end up figuring it out. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it ends up with a very beautiful garment. It is a raglan construction, so the overall construction of this garment is quite simple in terms of when you get to the body, but just before, when you're going back and forth and there are some short rows into the sleeves, it can get a little confusing. So I would suggest that if you are comfortable with color work and you really want to try this pattern, to go ahead. The chart is huge, so I had to print it out and then really take a ruler and go by line, just because when you print it out, it is on a landscapes and the chart is very long. It's not a repetitive chart where you repeat a certain amount of stitches. It is all over, so you really have all of these different patterns for the front and the back and the sides. So I would suggest that you try it out if you love the pattern. I think it's really beautiful on, and I am so happy with the finished results that I probably will not be knitting this again anytime soon. I think that I'm happy that I went through it and I have this piece, and it was a really nice experience to be able to knit something by Tomomi. But I think that personally for me, having a sweater that's this loud of this design once is really all that I need. And because it is from her idea that I decided to do the navy to the vintage heather, and I think that it makes for it looks gradient, but it is just one line. There is no going back and forth of switching out my yarn to make a gradient. It was just a switch, but because it is within that really busy flower white section, I don't think from far away you can't really tell that it is more abrupt than you would think. I think that's all I have to say on this sweater. I really enjoyed making it. I know when I was making it at the end of December in 2022, my parents were over, and so I didn't really, and I only had one kid at that point, and so I could knit all day. And that was a really great break for me, and I really enjoyed the whole memory of it being that Christmas holiday season and of me making it while having my family around. Based on all of your suggestions from last week's video, as well as what I've been eyeing and what's on my Instagram feed and everything, I think I'm set on making the Bocce sweater by Manmi Choi, or Choi Manmi 작가님, as you would say in Korean. And this is Bocce is, I think, plural for kisses or kiss in Italian. And so it's a really pretty cable sweater where you have some cables going down and there's like a line in the middle of the sweater where then the cable switched to the other columns, and I think it's very beautiful. And so I'm really excited to knit it. I think she works, or she owns, or she works for Soup Knits, and soup means or soup means forest in Korean, which I think is a very pretty name as well. So I probably will be knitting that. I don't know in what yarn or when yet, but it's just what stood out to me the most. But of course, I'll keep an eye on the other designs that come out and are already out by Asian designers. I know that, of course, I mentioned Amy Sure and Tori Yu last time. I think the Burgin sisters, Sachiko and Kiyomi, I think their names are. The Burgin sisters in Toronto were suggested. There were a lot of other designers who I can't remember the name of off the top of my name who were suggested, like Yoon Jung. There was Yeon Hwa, a lot. There were so many designers, and so I'm so grateful again for the suggestions, and that's something that I'll keep in mind. And of course, the bundle is there again if you want to check it out. So now we'll move on to some finished objects. I only have one for this week, and this is the October hat that I was working on last week, and this turned out to be quite small, even though it stretches out a lot, of course, as I did do that German twisted cast on that 2x2 rib. But as soon as I saw how small the overall circumference was as I was knitting it, I got to this point and I was like, okay, I'll start decreasing, and this will be for a child. I'm not sure for whom exactly right now. So this is the October hat by Sloan Rosenthal, and she designed this for Kelborn Woolens when they did the Year of Hat, where they released a free hat pattern every month of the year. I took only the first 16 stitch repeat of this hat, cabled hat pattern. I think overall it's a lot more than 16 stitches. I want to say it's 30 something stitches, or even that 40 something stitch number overall, but I only took the small 2 traveling cable section up, and I just repeated that throughout on a 2x2 rib, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Last week, I mentioned that I wasn't sure how I was going to do the decreases, but of course, I just ended up following the decreases for that first 16 stitch pattern, which is so simple now that I think about it, but I don't know why I couldn't think of it last week. And I want to show you it specifically because I think it's very pretty and how it turned out. So what happens is, this is a free pattern, so I don't have any qualms talking about it, but what happens is you have decreases up here and here, and it is done by knit two togethers and slip knits, and that almost mimics the whole cable section of it going up. So I'll show it to you again, and I'll have a video insert of it. I think that might show it a little better. But this hat on me looks like a watch cap hat where it like falls before my ears. So it does fit my head, but it also at the same time doesn't fit my head. So I will be gifting it to somebody. It's a little too big for my baby, and my toddler will not wear a hat. So I'm so excited that this is done. The yarn is Mandy's making, and this is a very thin fingering weight yarn at 462 yards per 100 grams. And I'm not sure of the colorway because it was from a mystery skein sale that she had. I knit it with a US 4, a 3.5 millimeter needles, by doubling up the yarn to make a light DK weight yarn. And I'm really happy with how the yarn looks. I think it's a beautiful pink hat. There are speckles of orange, pink, and yellow in the hat, which make it really fun. And when I was washing the yarn, when I was washing the hat and blocking it, there was no runoff of any dye, which I was also very happy about. So I did the German twisted cast on, and I knit one row of 2x2 rib before joining in the rounds so that I could have the right side face outwards when the brim is flipped up. I prefer one side of the German twisted cast on more than the other, so that's what I decided to do, and I hope that the recipient will enjoy these. And if nobody will take it, then I'll just put it in my box, a new box of gift knits that I wanted to do for this year, and this will be the start of that. So I'm happy to have another beanie that's finished this year. Next, we'll move on to works in progress, and I'll first start off with the item that's been getting the most love, and this is the Port Jacket by Ozetta, and this version is for my husband. I'm knitting it out of Let Lopi, Istex Let Lopi in the color 58, which is dark gray heather. and I'm currently on my 5th ball of this. So it looks like this. This is in size 2, and so I've connected under the arms, did a little bit, and now I'm working on the sleeves first just because I would rather work on the body at the end and then do all of the collar and the ribbing after I finish the body. I so the original plan was that I wanted to finish this by next week before I film because my husband and daughter are going to Toronto. So I wanted him to have this to take, but just by my progress and by what else I'm working on, I don't think I'll be able to finish it and block it in time. So he'll just have it when he gets back, and that's all right. I am really enjoying working on it. It is done on a US 8, a 5mm needle, so it's going by very quickly. And the changes I've made to this pattern are that I'm knitting a size 2 for him because I want less of a drop shoulder. I wanted to sit a little higher up on his shoulder just because I feel like it makes for a little more of a masculine fit. And I followed exactly the cap sleeve, the short German short rows for the sleeves. I think that's beautiful. But I added a few extra stitches to the underarm when I joined the back and the fronts because I wanted there to be a little bit more room here, but I didn't necessarily want the shoulder to drop anymore. So I'm happy I did a size 2, but I wanted there to be just a little extra room. So I think I only picked up 4 extra stitches on each side, which makes not that much of a difference, but a difference at the same time. And so I'm really happy. He tried it on. I think it will fit great. And I'm really excited to continue on this project, except it being for my husband, I can't necessarily make it cropped. So I think his sleeve length is around 18 inches from the underarm, and then his body, I'll have to do around 14 inches. So I have just a lot of stockinette going for me in this project. And again, I don't think it will be finished by next week, but I am working on this, and this is the item that got the most love this week. So the reason that the port jacket isn't getting as much love as I thought it would is because I'm currently working on another sample knit for Emily from the Tea Cozy Yarn Shop, which is my local yarn store, and this is the Vest Claire by Mochi Knits, and I am currently only done this much. So I am almost ready to join the fronts and the backs. I just need to do a few more rows on the left side. So this is in size extra large. Everything's curled up. It doesn't look that great right now, but this is knit with Fiberco Meadow in the color Hydrangea. I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is such a beautiful color. It's a blue with a little bit of lavender in it. And so it looks exactly like a hydrangea flower. Meadow is quite a thin yarn. It's a heavy lace weight yarn or a light fingering weight yarn. It comes in at 498 meters per 100 grams. So just in that whole super soft type of level, but it feels a little thicker than that, or maybe just a little um, stronger because it does have silk in it. So it's 40% wool, 25% llama, 20% silk, and 15% linen. So that silk and linen make the fiber quite strong. And I don't think I've worked with llama before, so that's really cool too. And I think it will make for a really beautiful vest. It's supposed to be just a vest that you just not to put over anything, which you can, but just to be worn on your bare skin. I think it'll be great for that. It's a very soft yarn, and the fabric is quite light because I am knitting it on a US 4, a 3.5mm needle, as suggested in the pattern, and the gauge is a looser. So I think the gauge is around 25 stitches for 4 inches. Yeah, so the gauge is 25 centimeters for 4 inches, and this is what the vest looks like. It's a black and white photo, but I don't have a printer at home, so it's always nice to be able to look at printed patterns, but it is something that I also have to keep into a Ziploc bag because, as I said last week, I can't have a lot of paper out. So this vest goes up to fit a 3XL, which is around a 49-inch bust. I think the designer is from France, from what I've seen about her, but her patterns are in Spanish and English because she does a lot of Latin knitwear or Latin designing. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I thought it was just very multicultural because her designing name is Mochi Knits, and apparently Mochi is the name of her cat, and she's from France, but because her patterns aren't Spanish, so I was interested and looked into that as well. Being more of a monogamous knitter, I knit usually on one project at a time, but this year I'm trying to knit more projects, and I always like to have a couple of projects, one where I work on mainly at home and some more portable projects where I take on the go. And so these are the current projects I have on the go. And I take these when I go to the Maker's Night that's hosted by Tea Cozy Yarn Shop, as well as Rough and Tumble Pup that's in Ballard. So that's every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. And you're welcome to join if you'd like. It's a really great group of people. Sometimes there are, 4 to 6 people, and sometimes it's 20 people. It can get kind of loud, but I always enjoy my time there and always love chatting to all the people who are there. So if it is something you're interested in and you are in the Seattle area, then I definitely encourage you to come. At Maker's Night, these are the projects I'm currently working on. I am just doing a 2x2 rib hat. I casted on, I think, 120 stitches on a 3.5, a US 4 needle, and I'm going to make the Mneme hat, and it is spelled Mneme, the Muse of Memory, and it's a pattern by Sari Nordland in her book Softly Timeless Knits, except she uses, I think, an Aran weight and casts on a lot fewer stitches, but I can make it work with my current number of stitches, and I'll be using her decreases from that. So I plan on just doing this 2x2 rib until I almost run out of yarn, and then do the decreases and bind off. So it might have a thick double folded brim, or even a triple folded brim, depending on how far the yarn will go. And this yarn is the Dusty Yarn Co. DK weight in HRH HGH. And I think when I was doing the acquisition video, I wasn't sure what HGH stood for, and there was no way to know because HRH is Her Royal Highness, but HGH is actually Aubrey Dusty Yarn Co.'s mom's initials. And it's because they were working on a test knit together or a sweater together, and so she developed this color for her mom. And this is in her classic DK base, and it's just 100% superwash merino wool. And I'm really excited to have a bright red hat. It's something I've been talking about for a while, and I've just never gotten started on. So this will just continually be worked on during Maker's Night on Mondays. And also at Maker's Night, I'm also working on something else that's 2x2 rib, but this is just the beginning of a sock. And I decided to start this because I wanted to use the yarn that I got from the Woolberry Fiber Co. Not Your Nice collection. This is the Yora Mean One, Mr. Grinch, and it's a green with red in it. And the mini skein is an ice minty blue. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with the mini skein. I'm currently thinking after I do the cuff, I might think about doing some doodling from the Jamie Lomax book that I have, the Doodle Knit Directory, or some type of color work within this so that I can incorporate the mini skein into the sock. For works in progress, that's it, the 4 items, and I will mainly probably be working on the vest as well as the port jacket this week. I'm hoping to have the vest finished by next week, so hopefully it'll be a finished object, but again, we'll see on situation. And I have one acquisition to show you. So I already balled this up, but this is Issair Alpaca 2 in 61, and it's a really soft rose color. And this is the last color that I needed or that I wanted for my anemone sweater from Knitting for Olive by Pernille Larsen. That is also part of my Make 9, and I mentioned that I bought yarn for it last week. But of course the yarn from Denmark hasn't come in yet. However, because I'm planning on doing the rest of the color work in Issair Alpaca 2, and from the leftovers of my Northern Augustine 6, but my Northern Augustine 6, these are 50-gram balls, only took maximum 10 grams. Most of them, I think most of the colors I use only 5 grams. So I have a lot of leftover, and I really want to incorporate it in another project because it's a beautiful yarn. And so I bought another color because this I think will just tie everything together and make it slightly different. And I think the feel of the Knitting for Olive anemone sweater will just be completely different from the Northern Augustines. I really wanted to have this yarn to go because I am that excited for this anemone sweater. It's just been on my to make list for a while, not just starting this year, but I think early on last year or even the year before. When it first came out, I knew that I wanted to make it, but I just never bit the bullet and purchased a yarn, but now I have, and so I'm very excited. So again, this is Zaire Alpaca 2 in 61. I think that's all I have to share this week. Again, the Mariner Sweater pattern by Amy Sure was just released, as well as the Harbor Mitts from Alicia Plums on Instagram. If you are interested, I will have those patterns linked below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, if you are able to, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you next week. Bye.